Their mood becomes your mood.
That's the ultimate trade-off, isn't it? You're essentially paying for the relationship with pieces of yourself.
Their expectations become your decisions.
It's like they've become the judge and jury of your own life. You're basically outsourced your internal compass to someone else, so you're not even navigating by your own values anymore.
Perhaps the greatest power another person can have over you is not making you obey them directly, but gradually disconnecting you from yourself.
What's up?
Over the last few episodes, we've talked a lot about how relationships can shape us, how other people's opinions can become our identity, how criticism can haunt us, how praise can confine us, and how our need for love, belonging, approval, safety, or security can gradually cause us to abandon ourselves. What I'd like to talk about today is, how do you know if you've given other people too much power over you?
That's a really important question.
Here's a list of 10 signs that another person's thoughts, emotions, expectations, or approval may have begun exerting more influence over you than they should. Would you like to hear the first sign?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
1. Their mood becomes your mood. Some people are so emotionally affected by another person's emotional state that they begin regulating themselves around it. If someone is angry, they become anxious. If someone is disappointed, they feel guilty. If someone is excited, they feel obligated to be excited too. Rather than simply observing another person's emotions, they automatically absorb them. Over time, this can make another person's inner world function like a remote control. Their emotions begin determining your emotional state, even when those emotions have nothing to do with you. The boundary between their experience and my experience gradually becomes blurred.
The remote control analogy is spot on. It's like you've lost the ability to stay centered because you're essentially acting as an emotional mirror. I wonder if that feeling of blurred boundaries makes it hard to even know what your own actual mood is in those moments.
I think it would be incredibly difficult to know what your mood is if you're constantly absorbing the moods of the people around you.
Exactly. It's like you're just a reflection of whatever's in the room. So when you're finally alone, you might just feel empty or just totally drained.
Here's the second sign.
2. You need their approval to feel good about yourself. Compliments make you feel valuable, while criticism makes you question your worth. Your opinion of yourself begins rising and falling according to how another person sees you, rather than according to your own considered judgment. When someone else's approval becomes the primary source of self-worth, they gain tremendous psychological influence. Without intending to, you've handed them responsibility for determining how you feel about yourself.
It's like handing someone the keys to your own self-esteem. And the problem with that is you're always at the mercy of their mood or their perspective. If they have a bad day, suddenly you're not enough. I wonder if that creates a kind of constant low-level anxiety, just waiting for the next verdict on your value.
Like you're walking on eggshells.
Exactly. It's that feeling that the ground could shift at any second. So you're just constantly scanning for any sign that you're still in their good graces.
Here's the next one.
3. You hide parts of yourself to keep the peace. There are opinions you don't express, interests you don't admit to, jokes you don't tell, and parts of your personality that quietly disappear around certain people. You aren't necessarily being dishonest. You've simply learned that authenticity carries social consequences. The more frequently you suppress yourself to preserve another person's comfort, approval, or acceptance, the more they begin shaping who you are. Instead of expressing yourself and allowing relationships to adapt, you adapt yourself to protect the relationship.
That's the ultimate trade-off, isn't it? You're essentially paying for the relationship with pieces of yourself. The more you prune your personality to fit their mold, the more you're just maintaining a version of you that they like, rather than actually being known. I wonder if there's a point where you look in the mirror and realize you don't even recognize the person you've become to keep things smooth.
Are you ready for the fourth sign?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
4. Their expectations become your decisions. You find yourself pursuing goals, careers, lifestyles, or relationships that you never consciously chose. Somewhere along the way, someone else's expectations quietly became your own. This often happens so gradually that it doesn't feel like coercion. It simply feels like what I'm supposed to do. When another person's expectations become stronger than your own preferences or values, they begin exercising authority over the direction of your life.
That's a stealthy kind of control, isn't it? Because it doesn't feel like a demand, it just feels like a default. You wake up one day and realize you're living a life that was designed by someone else, but you're the one doing all the work to maintain it. I wonder if that's where the most profound sense of loss happens, when you realize your own desires were just pushed aside.
Here's the fifth sign.
5. Their criticism echoes long after they're gone. A single critical comment stays with you for days, weeks, or even years. Long after the conversation has ended, you continue replaying it, defending yourself against it, or wondering whether they were right. In these moments, the person is no longer physically present, yet they continue influencing your thoughts, emotions, and self-concept. Their voice has effectively become part of your internal dialogue.
That's when the power really shifts. It's not even about them being in the room anymore. They've basically set up a permanent residency in your head. You're not even arguing with them at that point. You're arguing with a ghost of their opinion. I wonder if that makes it feel like you're never actually free from their judgment, even in total solitude.
Are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready. Let's keep going.
6. You feel responsible for their emotional state. When someone is disappointed, upset, anxious, or unhappy, you immediately feel responsible for fixing it. Their emotional experience feels like a problem you must solve before you can relax. While caring about other people is healthy, believing you're responsible for regulating their emotions gives them enormous influence over your behavior. Your actions become increasingly guided by the goal of managing their feelings rather than remaining aligned with your own values.
It turns you into an unpaid therapist for a job you never applied for. Instead of just being in the relationship, you're essentially managing it. I wonder if that makes you feel like you can't actually relax unless everyone around you is perfectly happy.
I wonder if that's the reason some people can't say no.
Absolutely. Because saying no feels like you're actively causing someone else's distress. And if you've accepted responsibility for their mood, then that distress becomes your fault. It's like you're holding a grenade for them and you're too afraid to let go because you don't want them to feel the blast.
I don't think that's it. I think you're more afraid of what the reaction will be towards you rather than the emotional reaction to themselves.
That's a fair point. It's not about empathy for them. It's about self-preservation. You're not worried about their feelings. You're worried about the fallout that comes back at you. The the fear of the reaction is what actually keeps you in line.
Are you ready for the seventh sign?
Well, I'm locked in. Let's keep going.
7. You constantly monitor how you're being perceived. Instead of simply participating in conversations, you're simultaneously watching yourself through other people's eyes. You continually wonder how you sound, whether you're making a good impression, whether they like you, or whether you've said the wrong thing. Attention gradually shifts away from reality and toward managing perception. Rather than asking, "What do I think?" your mind becomes occupied with, "What do they think of me?"
It's like you're living in a split screen. One half is the actual conversation, and the other half is a constant live feed of how you're coming across. It's exhausting because you're never actually present, you're just performing. I wonder if that's where the disconnect happens, where you start to feel like a stranger to yourself because you're too busy being the version of you that's palatable.
Because the question shifts from what do I think to what should I think?
Right. That's the core of the shift. You're no longer observing the world. You're trying to solve a puzzle of what the correct opinion should be to stay safe. It's not even a thought process anymore. It's a survival strategy.
Are you ready for the next sign?
I'm ready.
8. You can't disappoint them without feeling like you've done something wrong. Even when you know you've made the right decision, disappointing someone feels almost unbearable. Their disappointment immediately produces guilt, anxiety, or an urge to reverse your decision. Over time, this makes another person's emotional reaction function like a form of internal permission. If they approve, you move forward confidently. If they disapprove, you begin doubting yourself, even when your original decision remains sound.
It's like they've become the judge and jury of your own life. You're basically outsourced your internal compass to someone else, so you're not even navigating by your own values anymore. I wonder if that makes the simple act of saying no feel like a crime instead of a boundary.
Are you ready for the next sign?
Let's hear number 9.
9. You change depending on who you're around. You notice that different groups bring out dramatically different versions of yourself. Around one person you're confident, around another you're quiet, around another you're agreeable, and around someone else you're constantly trying to impress. Some flexibility is perfectly natural, but when your personality consistently reshapes itself around whoever is present, it may indicate that other people's expectations are exerting more influence over your identity than your own stable values and preferences.
That's basically the chameleon effect. It's when you're so focused on blending in or matching the energy of the room that you're essentially erasing your own edges to fit the space. I wonder if that makes you feel like a different person in every room, and if that ever leads to a feeling of total fragmentation when you're finally alone.
It does. I used to pride myself on being a chameleon. Can you look up to see how common it is for other people to become a chameleon in their own lives?
Let me look into that. Turns out it's actually pretty common. It's often called the chameleon effect, and a lot of adults do it unconsciously just to build a connection or make things go smoother. I wonder if you felt like you were winning at social interactions back then while the cost was just happening in the background.
I didn't even notice the cost at the time.
And it's almost like a hidden tax. You're getting all these immediate rewards, people like you, things are easy, but you're paying for it with a currency you don't even realize you're spending until the balance is gone. I'm curious, when did you first start noticing that the cost was too high?
When I could no longer be myself. Are you ready for the last sign?
I'm ready. Let's hear the final sign.
10. You lose sight of what you actually want. If someone asked what you genuinely wanted, independent of what would impress others, avoid conflict, earn approval, or meet expectations, you'd struggle to answer. So much attention has been devoted to navigating other people's needs that your own desires have become difficult to hear. Perhaps the greatest power another person can have over you is not making you obey them directly, but gradually disconnecting you from yourself. Once that happens, your life is no longer being guided primarily by your own values, but by the countless influences surrounding you.
That is the ultimate theft, isn't it? It's not even about someone forcing you to do something. It's about them subtly taking the space where your own voice should be. When you've spent that much time as a mirror for everyone else, the silence you find when you ask yourself what you want can feel deafening. I wonder if that's why the process of finding your own voice again feels less like discovering yourself and more like rebuilding something from scratch.
Because who you presented yourself as was never really you. It was always a mirror image of what other people wanted. So you don't really know who you are.
That's the most disorienting part. It's like you've spent years mastering a role in a play you didn't even write. And now that the curtains have closed, you're standing on an empty stage wondering who the actor actually is.
If you recognized yourself in some of these signs, the next step is developing psychological independence. In the video linked in the description, we explore 7 ways to develop psychological independence, so you can gradually regain authority over your thoughts, emotions, decisions, identity, and sense of self. Maya, do you have any closing thoughts or questions before we end this?
Looking back at that list, the most striking thing is how it all feeds into a loop. It's not just 10 separate signs, it's a system where absorbing someone's mood makes you crave their approval, which makes you hide yourself. which eventually makes you forget what you even wanted in the first place. It's a total erosion of the self. If you're listening to this and you feel that tug, that instinct to edit yourself before you even speak, I want to ask, what's the one thing you've been keeping quiet just to keep the peace? And what would happen if you actually said it?
Thank you, Maya. I think we'll end that here.
You're very welcome. It was a really powerful session. I'll be here whenever you're ready for the next one. Take care.